Hi, I'm Sandy Kemsley of column2.com. I'm here today for the Trisotech blog with some thoughts on the role of modelers versus citizen developers. In my last video, I talked about understanding what you're modeling for. If you're modeling business processes and decisions using BPMN and DMN, those models might be different depending on whether your intention is to automate your business operations or just document them. Since that time, I gave a keynote at a conference where I talked about citizen developers. If you take a look at modeling executable processes and decisions for the purposes of automation, how big of a step is it to go from those models to an actual running application? In other words, are you a modeler or a citizen developer? And what's the difference? Citizen developer is a fairly new term, but not really a new concept. Basically, a citizen developer is someone, usually within the business side of the organization, who creates applications that are used by their peers. They typically use some sort of low-code tools in order to do this. Now, in the past, this might have meant using spreadsheets and email, but now there are complete low-code application development platforms that non-technical developers, or what we've come to call citizen developers, can use to quickly create applications. They graphically design user interfaces, processes, decisions, whatever else is needed to make the application work as it should, and then actually deploy it into production for people to use. Often, IT isn't even involved. Now, prior to the invention of the term low-code, we used to call platforms like this model-driven, because you create applications by designing graphical models instead of writing literal code. So I think you see where I'm going here. Graphical models are a key part of low code and therefore of citizen development. Now, some of the really low code or no code platforms don't use explicit process and decision models. They just have simple templates and sequential flows, and the citizen developer does some customization on those. That's okay for simple applications, of which there's a lot in most organizations. And it puts application development within the reach of almost anyone with a bit of analytical skill. But for people who are already modeling processes and decisions using BPMN and DMN, this is probably a bit too simplistic. In fact, someone who's proficient with these types of models is already partway towards becoming a more skilled developer. And arguably, fully executable BPMN and DMN models are a type of code. Creating them requires a bit more technical and analytical mindset than using the simpler low-code tools. So let's consider a slightly more capable low-code environment, or rather a model-driven platform, where you create those BPMN and DMN models directly to accurately model your business operations. And you're creating executable models, ones that are intended to be executed so they have the right granularity and functionality that you need to automate business operations. Well, then the low-code environment provides you with graphical tools for creating a user interface at the steps in the processes, integrating services into automated steps, adding analytics for the whole process and decisions, and much, much more. And these latter things take a lot less training to use than learning how to design the BPMN and DMN models in the first place. In other words, you're already doing the hard part of creating a model-driven application. Just draw up a user interface, plug in the services at your process steps, and now you're a citizen developer. Now, there's a lot more to it than that, obviously. You need to have a certain amount of governance to make sure that all of the citizen developers are singing from the same song sheet. And that includes methodologies, tools, and most importantly, how you interface with the more technical professional developers within IT. Those IT developers will be the ones creating services for you to use in your applications. So that's how you're going to access functions and data in other systems. You also need to have the right culture within your organization that allows people who are not in IT to create and deploy applications using these low-code, model-driven tools. There can't be the mindset that these applications are somehow less valid than those developed by IT, or that they're just prototypes to be redeveloped when IT gets around to it. They need to be first-class citizens, as it will, in the development of applications within your organization. So in short, if you're already gathering business requirements, creating BPMN and DMN models, you're doing the most technical part of a low-code application. And with the right tools and a small amount of training, you can make the jump from business analyst and modeler to citizen developer. And that's going to look good on your resume. That's it for today. You can find more of my writing and videos on the Trisotech blog or on my own blog at column2.com. See you next time.